This is problem 7-81 from section 7.1.5. So we have another problem here where they're completing the square. Greg was working on his homework, completing the square, and he sees his vertex is incorrect the next day. So we're going to find out where his mistake is and then fix the error. Okay, so make sure a lot of these problems where they have multiple parts to the question, make sure you're answering all the parts in the question. So what I'm going to do, again, is sometimes it's easier just to kind of redo the problem ourselves. So I have y equals 2x squared minus 6x plus 2. I've talked about not having this term be a number besides 1. We don't want it to be a number larger than 1. So I'm going to factor out my 2 just with the first two terms here. And leave my other one out there. So what we're going to do now is complete the square with only the stuff inside the parentheses. Now some of you might be wondering, why didn't we just factor out 2 from everything since they all had a 2 in common? Now you can do that and you will still get the same exact equation. So know that if there is a constant term that you pull out, we have just been pulling it out of the first 2 because usually the last number hasn't worked. Okay, so that's why we've only been doing the first 2 terms, but since this one works, if you factor out 2 from everything and you end up having x squared minus 3x plus 1 all inside parentheses, you can still do completing the square with that and you'll get the same exact equation. So let's continue with how we've been doing it recently. So I'm going to draw my rectangle here. Okay. So I have y equals the stuff. So inside this rectangle, I'm splitting this up. So x squared, and it's split equally negative 3x. So that's going to be negative 1.5x and negative 1.5x. So I know my outsides. Okay. So if I multiply those together to get the top right corner of the box, I should get 2.25. Okay, 2.25. But I have the constant term inside up here is nothing. So I have 0. I have to add 2.25 on this side to make it a complete square. But I know that the thing that probably Greg messed up on was this 2 on the outside. So instead of just adding 2.25, he had to add 2 times that. Right? He had to add that to both sides. So let's rewrite this. So I have y plus 2 times 2.25 equals, now I'm going to write this box as the area as a product. So I have x minus 1.5 squared. So if you're looking at the problem saying, oh wait, I have decimals and the problem is fractions, that's where he went wrong. Now I really have the same exact thing. Okay, so 2.25 is the same thing as 9/4. So that is not the difference. The difference here we see, if we notice back at his steps, or maybe we'll notice it in the next step after this, because we're going to subtract our 2 times this. So 2 times 2.25 is really going to give me it's really going to give me 4.5. Oops. Oh yeah, 4.5 here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to subtract that from the other side, and something I just realized that I forgot to do was we had our quantity squared, but we also had this little plus 2 on the end, and we had the doubling effect. So we have 2 of this plus 2. So we got to be really careful when we're copying our stuff down. So let's actually back up a second. Let's rewrite it in the new format first. So I have y equals, y minus 4.5. So I'm just changing what this stuff was right here. So this is really 4.5. So equals 2. That's the 2 we factored out originally. This is the area of my box, written as a product, plus the original 2 that we did not factor out to begin with. So this 2 right here, we still need to replace that and the 2 we factored out. So now we're going to subtract 4.5 from both sides. So 2 times x minus 1.5 squared plus 2 minus 4.5. Okay, so it's gone from this side now since I subtracted it, and now it's over here. So we're seeing, if we look back up at the top, Greg's work, we subtracted 4.5, and he subtracted 9/4. Now 9/4 is going to be 2.25, so his mistake, as we've seen many times, is he did not add the correct value. He only added, if I go back here, he only added this amount instead of 2 times that amount. Okay, so that's where his error is. So let's continue to solve this. So I have my new equation going to be y equals 2 times x minus 1.5, or 3/2, minus 2.5, or 5/2. Okay? So here's our new equation. So the place where he went wrong was he subtracted in our case, he subtracted 2.25 instead of 2 times that, since we factored out that 2 to begin with. Okay, so that's where he went wrong, and so his new vertex should be, if I look up at our new equation, it's the opposite of this number and keep this one the same. So the opposite of negative 1.5 is positive 1.5, and I keep my negative 2.25 the same. Or sorry, negative 2.5, so let's fix that. So it's just the second number in our equation, so negative 2.5. Okay? You might also see, if you kept your things in fractions the whole time, you should have had your vertex to be 3/2 minus, or negative 5/2. Those are the same thing. Okay, so this is completing the square. We need to make sure that we're adding, if we factored out a number first, if we factored out this 2 to begin with, then I'm going to double whatever I add to both sides, because I'm really adding the quantity inside to right there. Okay, so complete the square, then I can find the vertex from that.